John, thanks for doing this. Everybody, welcome to Tint Wisdom number 46. Today, I'm joined with John Little of All Pro Window Tinting. Hey. So, up until this point, we've never spoken. You've just been a name on Facebook for me, basically, in a little picture. But you're a name I see often. You're obviously a name that's been in the industry, or well ingrained into the industry. Can you give me an idea a little more about, like, how did you get into the window film industry, how long you've been doing it, and so on? Oh, hang on one second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hey, so there seems to have been an audio issue just at the beginning of this. So let's just start this over. Let's pretend that didn't happen. And we're just going to start this over real quick because there was a little bit of audio. All right. So, okay. So, welcome to Tint Wisdom. Sorry about the audio issue. Everybody probably heard what I was saying, but they didn't hear what you were saying, John. So my question for you is, first of all, welcome. Sorry about the audio issue. If we could start over, John, tell me a little bit more about how you got into the industry, when you got into the industry, and so on.
Yeah, I got into the industry back in '85 when I just graduated school, like I was saying earlier, about a year early. So I was waiting on my buddies and friends to catch up with me before I started college. I needed a job and applied everywhere all around Fort Worth, the Fort Worth area. Most of them would say, "You got any experience?" I said, "No, I'm a kid, but I'm willing to learn." And anyway, I went to this one shop I thought was a glass shop. I worked there. I went in there, and they were saying that the boss is fixing to hire somebody. I'm like, cool. It's glass. I don't know anything about glass, but hey, I'm willing to learn. Well, I never heard from them. Nobody else was shooting down, so I'd go back and I'd bug them. And I bugged them about 2 or 3 times, and every time they were saying they were really about to hire somebody. So, well, then I finally got a call. Got a call from the owner, and he calls me in for an interview. So I go to this interview, and it's a window tint shop. Well, I didn't know anything about window tint, and I thought I was maybe getting an interview with a glass shop. Well, there were 2 brothers, and these 2 brothers, the last name's Molenberg, and they're still in the industry, in the glass and the window tint industry. They had this shop, and one half of it was glass, one half of it was window tint. Well, I got interviewed by the window tint owner, and anyway, worked there. I worked for him for 3 years, I think, and then moved up. I was the shop manager. I left there for good reason, and went to work for used to be my boss. My foreman there, the shop boss. Worked for him for about 2 years. Well, one day, I guess, I think my younger brother, who's not working in the industry anymore, he just started about six months at the shop working under me, and one night I guess I told my boss that I was looking to start my own. Probably said it and shouldn't have said it, but in hindsight, it was the best thing that happened, because he come in the next day and fired both of us because he thought, we weren't going to, if we're planning on going off on our own, we're not going to dedicate, our energy and work into, his business. And so I immediately went back to the house, took a nap, got up and said, I'm going to go up here to Decatur. I already had kind of an in with the car dealerships up here, and they didn't have a window tinter up here that I knew of.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up here. I drove up that day, went to the dealerships. I kind of knew some of the people in there because they used to drive them all the way to Fort Worth, 45 minutes away, to have stuff tinted because they didn't have anybody up here. And anyway, so they're like, oh, yeah, we need somebody here. We need somebody here. So went looking around, found a building, which is the building I'm in now, and that was 1990. In 1990, so I just celebrated this past month in February my 30th year here in business for myself.
Wow.
My brother James, my younger brother that started with us, is no longer with us. He went on to work in the corporate world. And then my youngest brother come on when he got out of school, and me and him are partners today. And it's been good. We do a lot of car dealerships. We got a very, very, very good relationship with our car dealerships. I know a lot of people. I see it all on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't want to do the car dealerships. They hate them, and you know they drop them. You know at the it's you have to flick of the switch. You know, but I've got a really good relationship with them. The general managers are all. I mean, I've got them on my phone. I mean, they're friends. And
Mm-hmm.
we've built, and it's took a long time to build these relationships, but we've built some strong relationships. And of course, being here as long as I have, the community knows me, and they know our work. We've had, we've made it for 30 years being the only one here. There's been a couple try to, investigate coming in here, but.
And by in here, you mean your city, not just the car dealers that you service, but in your area.
I'm talking about Decatur, Texas. Yeah.
You're the sole tint shop, basically.
I am the sole tint shop, yes.
Wow.
And we serve in this town that I'm in is kind of it's kind of deceiving how big it is, because it's really about a 12,000 city. I mean, I guess they have about 12,000 in the community. They're I think on the city limit, and but it's kind of a funnel. It's kind of a funnel to a lot of other communities. Everybody has to go through Decatur or come to Decatur. There ain't a lot here, but I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dealerships here. Then I've got another town in another county about 30 minutes from me. And I do all that dealership work, and I do the retail, work. So I've got about 3 counties that utilize us, for their window needs.
And you go to the dealer to service; they don't bring it to you, right?
They bring it to me.
Do they?
We've got used to we'd go pick them up and bring them back to the shop. They're not very far, but at some point, over the years, they just got where they just started bringing them to us, and that was great because, I don't, I love that. We don't have to, waste our time running up there, because that's a lot of time lost when we could be working.
And how did that happen? Was it just because they needed it done sooner than you could be out there, or how did you make that all work for you? I
look back on that, and I don't know. They used to. That's what they really liked about us. We'd go up there and pick up and deliver, and at some point, one of my big Chevy dealership, just started sending their little porters driving it down to me. And it might have been because we were real busy, and I was saying, I can't get over there for a little bit, blah, blah, blah. Well, we'll just bring it to you. And then it just got in the habit of that. And then I just started telling all the other dealerships, hey, you can get it down here to me. I'll get it. Other than that, it'll be a little bit because I've got it. And so that's just way it works. I also have 2 dealerships, one right here just a couple blocks from me that I preload for. I mean, I do everything on their lot. It's a Dodge Jeep dealership. Mm-hmm. The town, and they bring it to. Actually, they go pull a bunch of keys, and I just run up there and I just start rotating them. They're just right here next to me. But then I got a dealership that's a Ford and Chevy, I mean, a Ford and Dodge dealership and Jeep and all that, in a town about 30 minutes from me. And they do preloads. I do everything, all Fords, all Dodge, all Jeep. And we go up there about once a week, me or my brother, we'll just rotate and swap out. And we'll find out. They'll tell us what we got. Now I'm old school. I used to go up there and just take a roll of film, and we have a bunch of Jeep Wranglers. I'd go put a bunch of film up there on the window, cut out a bunch of front doors, and and whatever, if it's multiple things, and just hand cut it. But here about 4 years ago, I guess, I got through Lumar, I got a plotter, which was a hard thing for me to learn, being so old school like I am, but we love it. I mean, it really helped, and so now I'll just call them, hey, or text the manager or one of the salesmen up there. I said, hey, what y'all get come in this week? He'll tell me 4 F-150s, 2 Dodge Rams, whatever it is, and then I'll just plot it all out, roll it up, and then the next day we'll get up there and preload. I always take an extra roll or two, because they're usually off. They usually missed 1 or 2, so I'll hand cut them. But
so, do you also do flat glass?
Yes, I do. Did a pretty good decent job today.
And I'm curious, because it's obviously a small town, but there's also no other tinters there. So, how's that look for you? Like, that should keep you pretty busy, or are most people how's this flat glass in a small town like that?
I do a bunch. I mean, it's mostly cars, but we do a bunch of work between them both. Flat glass, it used to not be that much. I do my 3 or 4 jobs a year. Back when I was first in business. Now I've got something every week. Sometimes I got 3 or 4 jobs working, in the week, and sometimes I might just have 1. I may skip a week, just there's no flat glass going on. But I did a little hospital, not a hospital, I guess it's a medical facility today, as a matter of fact. So, and I probably do more commercial business flat glass than I do residential, but I do quite a bit of it too.
So you said your town currently, or it has approximately 12,000 people?
Yeah, something like that.
Do you do any outbound advertising, or
do I what?
Do you do any outbound advertising to try and inform people, I guess? Because I can't imagine. Well, it's just a small group of people, so it feels like it's almost manageable that you could possibly convince all 12,000 people that live there that they need window tint. You could reach them all,
Well, my advertising started back, when I was first here, and it was the phone book. Back then, that was it. You didn't have internet, you didn't have computers, and so the phone book and word of mouth was your best advertising. So back then, it's the biggest, the best ad or something would probably get you the most work. Being that I'm in my own town, the only one in my town, that didn't really matter how big your ad was or whatever. But that was one of the reasons why I named my business what I did, All Pro Window Tinting, because when you look in a phone book, the first thing that you see is usually what people call.
Sure.
And All Pro started with an A, and instead of Zion window tinting, I didn't want to be at the end of the list.
Sure.
Because who knows? I'm looking in the future, possibly other shops come along the way, and I wanted to be that first one on the list. But I don't really advertise today. I don't advertise. Like I said, we're pretty well known around here, so I don't really need to advertise a lot. I don't have a web page. I do have a Facebook page. I do put pictures in that and stuff. Run specials or gift certificate, little things or whatever I'll put on there. But I don't do much internet advertising. I know it's the way of the world today, but I'm still old school. I still write my checks with a pen instead of on a computer. I write my invoices. They're still written down on paper. I,
Hmm.
got my QuickBooks. That's about as far as digital, I guess, on the computer as I go. But
So
it's working.
yeah, for sure. And kind of rewinding to some technology you mentioned a little bit earlier, your plotter. I'm curious to know. You sounded like maybe there was a little resistance to adopting the plotter, and Lumar made the deal sweet enough that you said, "Let me give it a shot." And
Right.
I'm curious, from when that plotter first was set up in your shop to the moment you knew it was love, how much time passed? How many days or hours or weeks of trial and error? Or, was it
Well,
love at first sight?
the first time I got a plotter uh, was back about 15 years ago, and PPF had just started, and Lumar had just started, getting into the PPF world, and I had a Corvette, and I've never learned PPF from anybody. I've just kind of had to figure it out on my own, and I'm still not. I'll pick and choose what I want to do when it comes to PPF. But I had a job that was a Corvette, just the front end of it, and they sent, and I'd call them, I tell them what I want. They cut it out with a film. Back then, my distributorship was American Filter Film was the name of it, and they were my Lumar distributorship, and it was owned by, I know many of y'all know Brett Wassel with Film and Vinyl Designs. It was his parents that had that, and Brett was a rep, and my rep David Mussett was a rep for them. Well, Brett had just got into the film and vinyl designs, and anyway, he cut me this film. I'll try to make this, I'm making this longer than it should be, and it left out a little piece.
Hmm.
And then I called him and said, "Hey, there's this one piece that's not in there." He goes, "Well, you got film and vinyl design, don't you?" I said, "Oh man," I said, "I don't do that." I said, "I'm handcuffed." He goes, "Oh man," he goes, "I'm going to send you one. I'm going to get with David, and I'm going to send you this plotter." He goes,
Hmm.
"I'm going to let you keep it a couple months." And he goes, "I guarantee you'll buy it. You
Hmm.
won't send it back." I didn't get a week into that thing, and it was all I could do for keep from pushing it out my door out to the street, hoping a car would hit it. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. It was just hard adjustment for me to do.
Uh-huh.
And finally, they never come picked it up. I used it a little bit, but most of the time it just sat over there. I just gave up on it. So they finally come and got it after about 3 or 4 months, picked it up. Well, fast forward to about 3 or 4 years ago, and my major my major dealership, car dealership that I do a buttload of work for, wanted to start doing in-house, tinting, like most of them are everywhere.
Hmm.
But they wanted to talk to me about it first. And so they come and talk to me about it and said they have a dealership in another town, about 45 minutes from here. And they've been in-house, they'd been doing in-house for a while. They had their own employees there, and they were showing the numbers over here to mine, what it was doing. And they had to start listening to the guy who was trying to push this. Well, so they took us to lunch, me and the general manager, my brother, and the service. He's not the service manager; he's the service advisor. He's the service manager of all the dealerships. And anyway, we met with him. He was telling me that they're wanting to go this route and wanting to know if we want to come work for them. I'm like, no. No, why would I do that?
Hmm.
I said, "I've got something better for you." I go, we still want to do your work, and we can have one of us could be up at that dealership all the time. So we ended up at that dealership. I mean, they said, "Oh yeah, shoot, yeah, let's do that." Now we don't have to try to go hire somebody and stuff. And anyway, so me and my brother, one week would be his week up there, next week would be mine. But in the meantime, what I did was I contacted David Mussett, my rep, and I said, "Hey, I've got this account now." I go, it sure would probably make things a lot easier if we had a plotter. Now I know plotters have come a long way since back when I first had my experience with one. So we ended up. He goes, well, I'm not the dealership rep, you know. He goes, he goes, I'm gonna let you talk to Steve Saleh. You know, both of these guys now are good friends with me. And anyway, Steve got with me. He said, okay, yeah, but we'll have to open up a different account. So you got to meet your numbers with this one, and I got to meet my numbers with my shop account. And I'm like, we buy a bunch of film. There was that wasn't going to be an issue. So anyway, so we started doing that. We got it, and it took, back to what you originally asked me, you know, it took about a week this time till we were like, yeah, I think we like this. You know, because at first we were hand cutting them all right there when we first started doing the in-house stuff before we got the program set up. And then I thought, well, shoot, we got another dealership that we're preloading for, and instead of running up there, we had to leave the dealership had our plotter over at the dealership, you know, and it's like it's trouble to go cut them out for that other dealership that we're preloading for. So I got with Lumar and said, hey, we got another account that we might want to preload. The problem is we can't put that plotter up there at that dealership. There's no place to put it. You know, it's a small areas and stuff like that. And I said, okay, we'll just put it at your shop, even though they usually don't do that. So we got it at the shop, and it's used for the two dealerships now, and we just cut them there. And we love it. I mean, it's really helped us out. There's still things I don't like about the plotter. You know, I still would rather hand cut some things. I ain't gonna an old car. I won't even, you know, an old 80s
and why is that? Because the patterns don't fit right, or?
Yeah, the patterns don't really fit that good. And when you were talking about rubber seal back glasses on trucks, you know, you didn't have the black border. They're cut. You know, they don't fit right. You know, with the way I'll used to put away. I still do. I'll trim a wedge out of that rubber. You know, of course, cut it just a little bit bigger and tuck it up in there, and the patterns on any of the plotters I've seen just don't fit those type very good. But I will occasionally, I'll always try it. You know, if I get an old vehicle in there, if it's even in the system, and that's another thing. The old ones, sometimes there's not any in the system. But if it is in the system, I'll give it a whirl just to see. So for my own judgment, you know, and I'll look at it, see if it fits.
And so you've been with Lumar basically the entire time?
I've been with Lumar. Yes, I've been with Lumar for 30 years. The whole 30 years I've been here. There was a time when, I guess back when about 2010, I think it was, whenever Lumar switched their AT to ATC. I couldn't get in. I couldn't get that 1.5 mil film was just like hanging cardboard to me because I was so used to that little thin, flimsy, and I didn't like it. Didn't like the way it shrunk. Of course, now I don't know why I ever even liked the older film now, but anyway, long story short, we ended up. I contacted David and I said, "Hey, is there any more AT around?" He said, there's about this many rows of 60 and this many rows of all over the country. So I said, I want them all. So I bought the rest of the AT, and when it ran out, I switched to Solar Guard. For a short period of time, and then David got back when he said, John, he goes, man, you always bought a lot of film. He goes, we're gonna sweeten the pot, and you just give it a try. Just give it a try. And he goes, give this ATC a try. And I said, okay. And he sweetened the pot on price and everything. And anyway, ended up, I've never been one about price. Wasn't, my big thing. If I can get a film cheaper than the film I'm using, that it's usually the quality is what I'm more concerned with, and and the customer support from the companies. But anyway, we ended up giving it a try. Got back. That's how we got back with so we weren't using Solar Guard maybe 6 months, maybe, just for a short period of time, if that long. But anyway, there was a little hiccup in the road where we didn't use Lumar, but pretty much we've used Lumar the whole 30 years I've been here.
And you mentioned obviously the support, and clearly you're someone who values relationships that you build. Is there anything that stands out that Lumar's done over the years, or something that, something that they offer you that is the reason why they've been able to earn your business for so long and earn your trust with them?
Yes. They've been really good to me. They've been very good to me. They've done a lot of stuff for me during this time with my wife, with her heart attack and the situation she was in going through her transplant. They stepped up and really helped me out during this time, as did other people in the industry too. But that didn't surprise me, because they've always been really good to us. David and I mean, he's been my same rep. David Mussett has been my rep for 30 years. He's been my rep when I started. He's still, and there ain't very many of them out there that's been with their companies that long. Mm-hmm. So he's always been good to us. There was a time when I had, when I was kind of, I guess, ignorant to the flat glass side, about thermal stress and things like that. And I did a house, and I did it in a film that was safe. And and they had some windows break. They had some windows end up break. The seal blew on a couple of them. Well, they just replaced the glass and didn't tell me on the first one. And then when the second one, they're thinking, well, heck, it must be something to do with the tint. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I go out there and I know what in the world's going on. I didn't know anything about thermal stress back then. And I ended up contacting my distributors, the Lumar distributors, the Wassels, mm-hmm. And she said, John, just take it all off, make the bill. She asked me first. She goes, "Did you buy the glass breakage warranty?" I said, "No, I never have done that." Mm-hmm. She said, "Well, just make a bill, how much, and take it all off, and how much film you used on it, and they took care of it." Back then, they didn't do that. Back then, your film companies didn't. I mean, if you didn't have a warranty, if you didn't have a scientific warranty or something, they weren't going to take care of it. And that was even back when your auto tint wasn't lifetime warranty. So they earned my respect back then when they took care of, and it was not their fault. It was my fault. Actually, it wasn't, but it ended up, they didn't have to do it, and they did. That's one instance. They've always been good to me. They've always taken care of me.
Very cool. Well, I had the pleasure to attend the Eastman Lumar meeting over the weekend, and something that's if I had to estimate, I'd say probably about 300 people there, just my guess. But at the last day, I mentioned it on Tuesday, but the last day they do a breakfast, a round table breakfast, and the feeling that I walked out of that room is like a sense of family. There's like more than one. There's like tens of hugs being given. There's more than one cheeks with tears rolling down it. There's like this true sense of family and community. So that Lumar has been able to build over the years, and has now at least. That you bring up, that being at the Select Pro meetings, that is one thing that I've never. They really do a lot for the Select Pro, the Formula One and Vista dealerships, and I'm not either one of them. Nor do I need to be. We're in my right. And it's just kind of hard for me to. When ceramic come out,
that was a tough one just to start getting people
Sure.
to spend that little bit more money. I couldn't back in the day. I couldn't even get them to upgrade from ATC to ATR hardly. You know, they wouldn't want to spend another $30 on an upgrade. But now you got the ceramic comes along, it's $100, and now they're spending it. But it took a while getting people used to it, and now, I mean, probably, you know, it's getting where like half of what we do is ceramic, you know.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at on the Eastman meetings, I really wish there's one thing about Eastman I wish they would do. I wish they'd recognize their Lumar. They're just regular Lumar shops, you know. Because I mean, I could never. I mean, not that I'm wanting any praise or anything, but I probably have a pretty good chance. I buy a lot of film.
Yeah.
And it's just two of us, and me and my brother work our butts off. We've never hired anybody. You know, we're getting to that age where we're just going. I'm wishing we had started bringing up our kids. None of them really wanted to get up into the industry. Wasn't their thing. But I really wish they would recognize the Lumar shops.
Sure. You know, as you were saying that, I'm just, you know, my first thought went to how many dealers there are like you, Lumar dealers, that are top level dealers. Their purchases are up there. They've been in business for a long time, and just because they're not selling, like you said, Formula One or Vista, which I agree with you, doesn't necessarily, like, I don't know if I was in your position, I can't imagine a reason as of now, like, why you would go to Formula One, because, you know, Formula One's a way to stand out. You're standing out in a crowd of one. So, like, right. You know, it's exactly. Just more cost of film, and then more of a story to tell the customer in a way. Then, I mean, granted, obviously, if having access to a film like Stratos, everybody can benefit from. But I could see the challenges in that market, getting, you know, making that part, at least the challenges, making that outweigh the overall additional cost. So, you know, so at first I thought, you know, how cool, there should be a meeting for Lumar dealers like yourself. And then I was like, wait, why would it be only like the standout Lumar dealers? Like, I mean, I don't know how many Lumar dealers there are. If I had to say 5,000, let's just put a number out there, as tiny dealers that just have a couple boxes, and dealers like yourself that are well established. But if you did put that large of a group of people together, what would that look like? Now, certainly it wouldn't be at a resort. It wouldn't make sense. But if it was in some sort of, you know, like half of an arena, what kind of, how, I don't know. I'm just imagining things, but I just think it would be cool to get everybody together in one place, you know, because you look at events that do that and the impact and the energy that comes up from that. So why not with Lumar?
I would love to have been at that Select Pro meeting. You know, I wouldn't be able to go anyway, just too much going on. But I think it'd been to meet some of the. I'd like to meet Tommy Silva, and you know, in person. You know, he's a big player in the industry and has been for a long time. Mm-hmm. And he's got a good company over there in Hawaii. And I mean, the way he's got it, I mean, there should be a lot of bigger shops than what I got that should look at him, model their shop like, you know, the way he is. He's got it going. Mm-hmm. And
he's one of those people that'll just share everything
to meet everybody in the camaraderie.
Mm-hmm. And you know, even as like a plan B, I feel like it would have been cool if like the whole event was live streamed for dealers to be able to access only through maybe like connect2eastman.com or something like that. If you could have gone on there and just like watched a live stream in live time of the event, I feel like that it doesn't take much to put in place, but the impact would be pretty freaking cool, I feel like.
Oh yeah. You know? I mean, you see a lot of people live streaming stuff at the Tint office and stuff, you know. Yep. Why can't they do it there?
Hopefully for next year. Hopefully they're taking notes.
Hope they're listening.
So, right? I do hope they're listening. So you mentioned your age. You mentioned kind of getting towards, you know, the latter part of your career, wishing that you would have looking back and maybe wishing you would have hired people to have them in place to be able to take more of a step back. What's the plan moving forward, I guess, in loose terms?
You know, we don't know yet. Me and my brother both talked about it. Both of us are, he's, like I said, I'm 52. He's 45-ish. Okay, 46, I guess, right there. And
still super young with today's TRT.
Things hurt a little bit more, climbing in these things, getting up. I can't step up into the back, holding a piece of film, step up to the back like I'm having to elbow myself up in there, and knees don't work like they did. So we've had that discussion. That's like, visibly, we just start wearing out, especially, the volume we do, the amount we do in a day. I mean, there's not hardly a day goes by we don't do 10 cars or more. With two people. And that said, some of it's just front doors and stuff, but sometimes it ain't. Sometimes it's full jobs. But anyway, I don't know what we're going to do. We used to have an audio guy here for many years, and then about 4.5 years ago, he shut down, and he had a guy that worked for him who now works at a ranch. He just runs cows for this guy and does stuff. But he's available, and he does know how to tint, decent. He's not, we couldn't turn him loose on anything, but he can sure help out. And so sometimes we need help. We'll give him a holler. I'd hire him today if he wants to quit his job over there just to have somebody else. But he's not young either. But I don't know. We're talking about start looking for that young guy or two that really has interest in learning and and trying to get them in here and start the way that we want to train them. And like I said, I wish it was our kids to pass this on to them, but they just weren't interested.
Yeah, well, I mean, the plan you just laid out, definitely, like you said, it might be the end of you wanting to get in the backseat of small cars, but it can be the beginning of the management side of the business and you bringing up new tinters, managing them, and that brings on its own challenges and stuff. So it's like a whole new start and adventure in a way,
right.
The training and management. So
I'm up to it. I mean, I'm up for it.
Yeah. Well, you clearly know what you're doing, and all it takes is some patience and somebody else will know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that being a regret, not necessarily, possibly in the terms of regret.
Right.
Is there anything, like if we talk on the subject of regrets, if you look back in a critical way of the 30 years, is there any other quote unquote regrets that come to mind that, maybe if you could have told yourself 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it is, that maybe other tinters could get value from that are at a different point in their career?
Oh, man. I've never thought about that. I can't think of anything that I would regret not doing, I guess.
Or like maybe in retrospect, there was you learned a better way along the way, maybe something you've already implemented that at the beginning you thought it one way. I mean, the plotter being a good example. Obviously, if you would have picked up the plotter 10 years earlier, you would have loved it 10 years earlier.
Okay, I'll tell you one. And I'm like I said, I'm old school, and I had a hard time when I got on these window tint groups. Everybody's got their way of doing things, and of course, some people they think theirs is better than anybody's. But I had a hard time accepting, these new, younger millennials and these younger people. They can show me a few tricks, and that was a tough one. Tough pill to swallow for me, because I'm stubborn and I'm like, gee, ain't nobody teach me anything. Well, I found out I can learn a lot. And one thing I guess looking back, regret, I wish I had taken like sweeps and seals out. I'm not one to take panels off, which is funny because when I first, back in 1985, when I learned to tint, we took the door panel off when we tinted them.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, I'm like, why are we doing all these steps? Why don't we just, two-stage it, and I figured out how to two-stage and, saved a lot of time instead of taking door panels off. But I wish I'd looked into it more. I mean, because a lot of them now, you just pop them back, pull that sweep out, and everything's clean and easier, to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do that on some things if it's easy. It's simple. If I got to take screws out and take things apart, I'll just two-stage. It's always worked. It hasn't let me down over the years, but I guess just regret being open to some of the techniques that were out there that I didn't really want to go there. With
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them out there, and I've learned a lot. I mean, I've learned a lot just being on these groups, just watching people do certain things. But I mean, I guess that would be the only thing that I can think of. Little things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that's a great one to pass along because ultimately, I feel like everybody faces, or most people face similar challenges, and we all have our resistance to new things sometimes and so on. And, I feel like the plotter example is just such a one that could hit home to a lot of people because, ultimately, like you have to get through, like you just said, that little like learning stage, and you may have had a bad experience with the first time you interacted with something, but don't let that stop from the second time and so on. So I think that's.
I guess as far as the plotter, if you're like a little one-man shop, you do your, in the summertime, you're 3 or 4 cars a day, and that's about all you get, I don't see a reason to have a plotter, and spend the money on the software and updates and stuff like that. But
right.
And I mean, it's definitely a tool. That's all it is. It's not another employee. Right. It's just a tool.
Right.
And a tool that you can use. I mean, along with your squeegees and your hard cards and stuff like that. It's just another tool that help your better your work or faster. May help you in time. Because back when I first did a plotter, I could still tint around that plotter faster than that plotter could. And honestly, even today, I can hand cut as fast as from the time it takes me to put the roll in the thing, line it up, and put the button, and do it, and weed it, and do it. I've already got the thing cut out, and I've already started tinting. So, but when I do a whole lot of the same thing, man, it's great to have, and it's somebody's coming in my door. It's a great. I guess what was I lost my train of thought? Anyway, it's a good tool.
Well, what you're saying, 100% correct, and it's I think a lot of tinters say, where can I hire? I have a hard time hiring. Who do I hire for my, to grow your company and so on? And I think just an easy place to hire if you're tinting windows is hire somebody, train them on how to use the plotter. While you're tinting one car, they're plotting and prepping the next car, and they can clean the car, they can plot the car, they can have everything ready to go, and you're literally going from one car to installing the next car to installing the next car, and that's easier and more manageable than trying to hire another tinter and work alongside of them, because that's probably going to lead to frustration. You're faster than them, they're not doing it like you want to, and so and so.
That's you hit a good point. That's exactly what we probably are looking to do when we get to that point, is hire somebody that their job is just to prep, clean, plot, have it all ready for me or my brother, and let them learn that way. And over time, then I would like for them to know how to, when they not just prep, clean, I want them to hang it clean, shrink and stuff like that. And that's the goal anyway.
And if they can make it through those early steps of the position, then they're worthy of you investing your time actually training them on how to tint windows, because they've been with you, they've made it through prepping the windows, they've made it through plotting the windows. You're not wasting your time trying to train somebody who's not going to show up to work after 3 or 4 weeks or a month or whatnot. So
Right.
So thanks, obviously, to everybody who's watching live. We have quite a few comments. We can jump into some of those questions and comments now. I kind of put the questions to the end of or towards the end of the live stream. So feel free, anybody who's been watching, to ask those questions now. I wasn't ignoring them, but I feel like it's better to just kind of go over them in one bunch than to go through the middle. So let's see. We got a lot of positive comments. I'm going to try and skip through all the positive comments and try to get to the questions. One of those questions, one of the first questions by Billy, he mentioned something about snow cones. Do you have another business, or is this an inside joke?
Oh, Billy.
Inside joke?
Yes, I do. I have a snow cone stand.
Okay.
Just here at the end of the block. About 20 years ago, me and my wife, I've always liked snow cones. Always liked snow cones, and when we got married, she liked snow cones too. So I mean, when we're anywhere, we were always in all these towns, getting snow cones. Trying everybody's snow cones. We knew which town had the best snow cones and which stand in that town had the best snow cones. And it come down to one thing. The best ones got their syrup from this one particular place. They're kind of secretive, but it got out. I found out where it was all from. It's like, let's start our own. So I traded a tent job for a little building. Tented a buddy who had a snow cone stand in my town. I don't live here in Decatur where I'm about 18 miles south in another town, Springtown. And a buddy over there had a snow cone stand. But he had an extra building out there, and I'm like, hey, he just gave me the building. I bought a machine from another snow cone stand that used to be in my town that they went out of business. And every time I see her at the grocery store, I say, hey, you want to sell that machine? I want that machine. It made the best ice. It had the best fluffy ice and stuff. Anyway, long story short, we ended up getting that and putting the two together and started our own. And man, it's kind of crazy. It's amazing how much money them things will make in the summer, and you just put a kid making minimum wage running it, and they love it. I've had employees, they would work for me from all 4 years in high school and all 4 years in college. They just love working at it. It's just an easy job to them and fun, and they make money and they make tips, and and it's always been good.
That's awesome. So you mentioned the syrup obviously being one of the big secrets. Like, how big of a impact I feel like the way the ice is shaved has to be a huge part.
Time. Yeah.
Huge, right?
Oh yeah, that's the most important part, really, Eric. Certain ones. I mean, a shaved block ice is better than cubed ice. That just goes in there and crunches it. It's this more like real snow and soft. And the other secret that I don't tell other snow cone stands is, so I hope they're not watching, but the colder the ice it is, the better the snow cone will be. Meaning, if it's 30 degrees, your freezer only gets 30 degrees, that's freezing. But your ice ain't hard frozen. Getting down to 4 to 0.
That's the key. All right. That's a freaking great tip. Randy Humphreys asked to ask you about the swimming pool job.
Okay, yeah, back 2016, we went the swimming pool job. Is that what he said?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, 2016. He had a big job for it was a skylights on a pool room for a billionaire up there in Boston. When Randy was up in Boston, Randy's since moved to down to Nashville, where he's from. But he had a shop up there for many years. And anyway, he flew me up there to help him on this job. I was there for a whole week. Had a good time. We had a good time. I got to see things never been to New England. Never wanted to. I had a bucket list item, and that was to see the Fenway Park. He took me to that. But we got that job done in about 2.5 days. It was a big old job, and they made this room the skylights were 40-something foot up in the air. And I'm this old man. I don't know if I want to straddle ladders and stuff up there. And I'm like, and so we get there, and they've built this wooden deck on this pool. It's a huge, big Olympic-sized pool, and they made this wooden deck covering it, where if you were to fall, you'd hit the wooden deck instead of the water. But
Is
they
that
had
better?
scaffolding. Yeah, you splatter instead of splash.
Yeah.
But they ended up putting uh, scaffolding all through that whole pool room. So the only way to get up it was through the middle. It had a stairwell up through the middle of the scaffolding. And then when you get up there, the whole top of it was all wood up there. So you were just like you were standing on the floor doing this job. They did
That's
it,
awesome.
not didn't do it. They had it all set up when we got there. And so it made our job easier. We didn't have to get up ladders and lifts and stuff like that and try to get over the top of a pool and ended up working out great. I mean, we got me, him, and his one of his employees. We knocked it out in about 2.5 days, and that was working on their time. We had to be out there at 4:30 in the evening because they were shutting down. The construction people said, "Oh, no, we're going out." So we'd get there about 9 and work till about 4:30, and be gone. And we got it done about 2.5
They were looking out for you. That's pretty amazing. The opposite of what you probably or typically I feel like you encounter when you go to jobs.
And this just goes to I would have never known Randy Humphries. I would have never known you. I wouldn't know any of these people if it wasn't for being on the Facebook groups the last 5 or 6 years. I guess I've been on them.
Yeah.
So I got to meet, make a lot of contacts and meet a lot of people, and in that case, it worked out. I was able to go up there and see part of the country I probably would have never seen.
Yeah.
And work.
A few years back, so like I was never really one to. I think the window tinting groups actually what got me to use Facebook consistently. I was just one of those people who didn't really care to use Facebook, but the window tinting groups, keeping up with them, all was a reason to get on Facebook and check Facebook and so on because it's great information. It's definitely social, but also just for work, you just learn so much, and you never know when you're going to learn. And one of the little hacks that I did was I friend requested just about every tinter I could find, and I still do. When I come across tinters, I friend request them, and the reason being is, there's a lot of tinters out there who don't post in the Facebook group, but they post on their personal page, and it's window tint related. So it's a great way to just keep up with what other people are doing when you may never have seen it, and if you're not friends with them,
Right. And just think of this, Eric. There is even more window tinters out there that ain't even on Facebook. They don't know anything about it, but they're sitting there doing their everyday thing and oblivious to what goes on Facebook. There's more there than there are on Facebook. But I I know a bunch of tinters around the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex that I don't do that Facebook stuff, or I don't do those Facebook tinters. They just don't.
And plenty who they're on, but they don't post. Plenty that don't care at all. Maybe there's a little handful that's on Tint Dude still, and not Facebook. But yeah, it's definitely game changing for, it's been such a spread out industry. I feel like there's everybody pretty much owns one shop, maybe two shops, and everybody's in their own world. But Facebook has brought it all together to where, like you said, would have never known each other.
Yeah.
So David asked, he wanted me to ask you when you started All Star with Sparky. When you started tinting at All Star with Sparky.
Oh, David Mussett?
Yep.
Yeah. I started tinting with Sparky, I guess. Well, earlier when I was saying I worked for Muhlenberg at Lone Star window tint. I worked there for about 3 years, so it was about 88, okay. I think, for working at All Star, David. I think you come on right after I'd left. I think you started work. I think David started working for American Filter Film as a rep right after I'd already left working for Sparky there at All Star.
Just a comment, not a question, but Chris Queen said, I agree with John. I used a plotter for the first time in my 23 years of tinting yesterday, and unless my hand cutting abilities are extremely high and fast, I would never need a plotter unless I go back to dealership wholesale accounts. Yeah, I mean, basically, I guess what Chris is saying, he used a plotter for the first time, 23 years of tinting, and he doesn't see himself needing a plotter, but that just.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
To Chris on that. I had a hard time accepting that plotter. I really did, and especially the first go round. The second go round, I was a little bit more open to it, and I still had my reservations. But man, once you get it down, Chris, once it becomes routine with you, you'll use it on everything. You'll quit. I mean, you got it. Why not use it? It's why I am with it now. Even there's a lot of things I do I don't need a stinking plotter for, but I'm like, but I got it, so I'll just use it. And it's sitting there, and maybe it's because I'm getting older and lazier. Hey, if that machine cut it out for me, I don't have to do it. I'm going to do that. It helps. It's it's a tool. I can see those who don't like it. I can definitely understand what they're coming from.
You said it best earlier when you said that a plotter is a tool, and you just said it now again. The plotter is a tool, and if the plotter is a tool, and this is the first time you're using it after 23 years of using a knife in your hand, which is a different tool. You've used one tool for 23 years, the other tool one time. You're not going to be as good at the new tool as you are as the old tool, but it doesn't mean to say that there's not benefit to getting more experienced with the new tool. So you know what I mean? So like a hands-on electric saw, if you use a handsaw for 23 years and you try an electric saw for 1 minute, you may not be that good using the electric saw, but obviously, so you have to give it a chance. Pen and paper is going to be easier than using an app if you've used pen and paper for 30 years. It's not to say that there's not a benefit to learning that new technology.
Speaking of that, I've got something right here. Back in the day, when I started, you didn't have very many tools. You had your OFA knife. You didn't even have Pro A. The red dot wasn't even around. You had your OFA. You didn't have stainless steel blades. You had carbon blades. And our squeegee, my squeegee when I first started was the black, squeegee bar cut, a little black turbo. That's all you had. You cleaned and you squeegeed with it. It didn't push out the water you need. Of course, film was thinner back then. And then they come out with the blue Max and the yellow turbo squeegees, and I never could get used to the handle stuff. I did the yellow turbo forever, and then as my hands started bothering me, I started having to go to the handle, and I use a handle squeegee, and I try to support the whole industry, man. I love Fusion tools. I love their tools, but I also love Rodney McClure's tools too. I use this dehydrator. The dehydrator and the sledgehammer are good squeegees. So is the red line. So is the blue Max. Those are all good tools. And I just rotate around. I try to use them all, and I try to support everybody with it. But you're talking about you get used to a tool that I still use today. I don't know if anybody can see that. That's a 5-way tool. Great. And what I'll do is I will cut my tri-edge off of it. Right there. There you got that corner. You can get a smaller one here. You can make this one bigger if you want to. And I still use those today for my tri-edge. Now, they make all types of tri-edge, but for some reason, I'm just stuck with this old school method, of using this old 5-way tool. And so, there's some things, you just don't ever get away from. You still use. It's always worked. If it ain't broke, don't fix it type mentality, I guess. But I do like the easy reach, because it gets in those tighter places that this thing's a little too thick for. And so I use that, and I'm glad they come out with them. But for most of my bumping, after I'm done with the paper towel on it, I'll just use this.
And like you just said, when we're talking about the plotter, like going back to tools rather, when the plotter comes up, typically the first thing that people bring up is speed. And of course, speed is important, but like two factors, one we kind of touched on earlier was anybody can learn how to use a plotter in like a day, maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes. You could literally train anybody to do that. You cannot train that same person to hand cut a window of a car in that same amount of training time. So right there is a benefit. Now let's just say you're going to be doing the work yourself and your choice is hand cut or plot. And let's just say plotting is going to take you 5 minutes longer than hand cutting, but you don't actually have to do it. So you're not like using your wrist, you're not using your arms, you're not doing anything. You're standing next to a machine. Like that cumulative wear and tear on your body, I would rather be on the machine than on your body. Am I crazy? I mean, I'm just saying it's not just what's faster and bang it out. It's like big picture,
Well, yeah, no, you're not crazy. I might have said you were crazy a few years ago when it didn't hurt as much, do things. But now I see, uh, doing things like, with something else is doing all the labor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who wouldn't want to let them do it?
Right.
But it's again, yeah, like I've said over and over, it's a tool that some people like it, some people don't. I get it. I get both.
And I feel like one of the biggest challenges that the best tint shops actually face is adopting new things like this, because what happens typically when you're so great, you become so busy that it becomes more difficult to make changes in your company because you're so busy. So it's like a victim of success in a sense. So like, that's just one of those things where like, yes, you might be a badass tint shop and you might be so freaking busy, but don't let that keep you from adopting new things and taking time, because, that's
that's a very good point. That's the reason why we have adopted more stuff, because we are so busy, and anything to help will help. And that's one of the reasons why we've never hired anybody, because we're too busy to, when you hire somebody, you want to train them.
mm-hmm.
Like you want to, I mean, I've never been one. I know all the film companies have their own, you can send Lumar, Solar Guard, Matico, all of them will, you can send your employees off to be trained. But I've never been big into that. I'd rather them not get any habits that I wouldn't like to use in my shop, I guess. I don't call them bad habits. Just I'd want to train them the way I do things. So, problem with that is when you're busy, and we're not just busy in the summertime, we're busy in the wintertime too, especially with car dealerships and stuff. All the car dealerships we have, when most people are slow, we're still doing stuff, and you just don't have time. You need to get that one-on-one, sit there and just kind of walk them through and try to tell them. It's just hard. It's hard. I mean, you can make it work. It's just hard to do, and that's why we've kind of been hesitant on hiring somebody.
Got it. I think that makes perfect sense, and it's very, very common. So Randy Sayan, he said, I think that when more and more tinters become reliant on plotters, the people that can hand cut will be able to charge more for custom cuts, like tape on pinstriping to paint on pinstriping. So basically what Randy's saying is, as people move towards plotters, that's going to create this kind of niche demand that could be marketed as hand cut. The thing is, Randy, I believe that still exists today on both sides of the coin. So you can still push hand cutting as your standout, your standout service, and then at the same time you can totally put a plotter as this is computer cut, and that adds value. So I feel like the difference between hand cutting and plotting is going to be perceived value, because at the end of the day the window is going to be the same. Let's assume the hand cut and plotter look the same. It's just the perceived value that you're able to relay to your customer. So that's marketing, and that's something to focus on regardless of which side of the coin you're on. You should be going for it.
Yeah. That come in, they want the custom job, the hand cut job. So, give it to them, and you don't ever lose that art of being able to hand cut. I mean, I don't. I always want to hand cut it, and uh, it's an art.
Hmm.
It's a skill that we put together over all years and of working. But uh, with the generation today, they've heard about that computer that cuts it out, or that laser they'll call it. You got
Sure.
one of them laser cutters? I sure do.
Sure.
and and even though it's not a laser, I just say yeah, because they don't know, and they think that's cool, and that's how they want theirs, cut. And then some people you know, don't want to put a blade on their vehicle, and that's where the plotter comes in. You'll get people like that don't want a blade, or you don't. They make the glass today so soft in a lot of stuff, and you've got even the stainless steel blades can score them, and I've never seen that in all my years, but now you can see it today.
Yep.
And so, man, that's where the plotter is a lot safer. I guess you won't. You're not having to fix something that you scratched, or uh, you know by putting a blade to it. But
Sure.
there's advantages to both. You lose power, and if you're just a plotter guy, what if you lose power? And if you lose power, it's going to be too dark to work. But say your computer crashes, or the machine quits working and
Sure.
blows a fuse. I don't know, something happens to it. What are you going to do if you don't know how to hand cut? You got to know how to hand cut.
Sure.
So that's where you just pick up the old trusty OFA and get after it.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like the proof's in the pudding in the sense that like you hear about instances like yourself where you hand cutted for decades and then you switch to plotter, but you don't really hear about anybody who's plotted for years and then switched to hand cut. You see what I mean? And then went back to, you don't ever hear that. So like, why? You know what I mean? Why doesn't anybody use a plotter for like 5 years and then be like, the heck with this thing, I'm just going to hand cut it? Like, you don't really hear that happening too much. So
Right.
I think this falls into the category of, in my opinion, is you have to listen. You have to find the people who talk positively about it, because those are the people who have it figured out. The people who talk negative about it, nothing wrong, but it's just a matter of maybe they haven't figured it out, because when they do, then they'll be talking positively. You
Right.
know?
Oh yeah.
For those deciding like, hey, is it worth it? Hey, is it not? If they're trying to battle it, like the people who talk positively are finding a benefit. That should be where the focus is what's the benefit, not necessarily what's the reason other people aren't.
It's just, and I guess if I was saying, talk about a plotter, again, I was such an anti-plotter forever, but
Anti-plotter, I like it.
I mean, patience. Just people just got to be
Yeah.
patient with it.
Yep.
And I wasn't the first go around with it. I just didn't have the patience. I just wasn't going to deal with it. My hands have worked all this time. Heck with that thing. And but if you're wanting to utilize it, it's a good tool, man. I think everybody, if they can afford it, it's a good tool to have. And just be patient with it. Just work with it. You don't have to do every vehicle come in for 2 weeks. Have to stick with that plotter. Switch around.
Yep.
Cut every other one or something. Just kind of work, but always try to use it and utilize it, and it'll work. It'll work for you if you just be patient.
And you mentioned affording it. So something I just kind of want to bring up is to those who may just feel like I can't afford it, look into it. There are financing options out there. You go to your manufacturer, see if they can help get a plotter into your shop. It's worth pursuing. Don't just stop at I can't afford it, because you really never know if your manufacturer is going to help you out, or if somebody who sells them in your area is willing to do an in-house financing for you for a year or 2 years at no interest. Those types of agreements do exist, because like on your manufacturer's end, obviously, like they want to see you do the best. Buy the most film you can, do the best you can. So like it's in their best interest as well to do whatever it can take to get it in your hands. So push for it.
Yeah, and I say that's easy for me to say, getting people to try to use it, because fortunately for me, most of your window film companies have a program, as
Right.
long as you're buying a certain amount of film or buying the film from them or whatever. Some of them have numbers, and some of them, if you're just buying film from them, they'll supply you with the software. You might have to buy the the computer or the machine. You might, some of them will supply you that if you're really a big player where you're spending a lot of money with them. And in my case, I do, and I don't have to pay for the software,
Sure.
but I buy enough film to cover for them to do that, to give me that. Now, but it's only, I mean, it's, $100 to $150 a month. I guess the way I look at it is what the average is on most of the programs. Uh, you know, and it's just one car. It's
Hmm.
basically one car to pay for it.
And if you cut that, even if you're like, you have to make a personal sacrifice to afford something like this until you make the money back. Like, you will make the money back, and you'll make more money, and then you'll make up for that personal sacrifice plus have extra money. That's the idea. So, a lot of times I feel like somebody who might say, well, I can't afford a new computer, or I have an old phone, I can't afford a new iPhone because it's like $1,100 or whatever it is. And then you're saying, well, you have a four-wheeler, or you have guns, and you have these things, and it's like, if you trade that for the tool you need for your work, you'll be able to buy those things plus more. And that's the beauty of being in business. So
Yep.
just throwing that out there to those boat owners who don't have a plotter. Uh, you know. Randy actually said that you can buy a 48-inch Graphtec plotter on eBay for $3,500, and you can get 12 months no interest. So I don't know, off the top of my head, that comes to about $300 a month, and you own the thing, and it'll probably serve you for 7 years, give or take, at least, if not more.
Or you can get the deal that Randy just got on his graph tag. That was even a better deal than that, but I can't tell you. I won't tell you. You already told me.
Okay. Well, 48-inch Graphtec, I mean, I definitely recommend, if you're looking for a plotter, just go with the Graphtec or go with the Roland, but spend the money on the quality. If you go with a janky plotter, you're going to be frustrated, and then you're going to be looking to sell it, and it's one of those things that you'll never be able to sell. Like, not never, but like, if you buy a shitty plotter, nobody's going to want to buy your shitty plotter when you give up on it. So, like, just get the good one to
Yeah.
begin with.
Yeah, I think the first go around when I didn't like it was a Roland, which that's a good plotter. And then the one I got now is a graph deck. So, and I mean, I don't know all them other brands and stuff, but I'm just going off of what I see
Yeah.
and what I hear and what I read. That those are usually your best quality, best two. I mean, you can get cheaper ones, but you'll have issues. The way I understand,
Yep.
I'm not an expert on all that, so.
So Andrew said his Graphtec's been going on 15 years. Andrew Bully, he said his Graphtec's been going on 15 years. I mean, when you take $3,600, give or take, you put that over 15 years. It's pretty good return on investment for an equipment. And
Andrew comes from he's a local guy over here. His dad been in the industry even longer than me. So Andrew knows this window tint. He's brought up in it.
do you think you're going to make it to Orlando this year for the Window Phone Convention? Probably
I
not.
don't,
Maybe.
I don't know yet. Just depends. Just depends. Depends on my wife too. Her situation too. What's going on then.
And how is Lark doing?
I was going to say that. She's doing great. She is home. I say home right now. She's staying at her parents. That way I can work and don't have to be there. So somebody can always be there in case she does have anything wrong. But she's been home. And they just live 10 minutes from our house in our town. So she's doing good. She's recovering. The heart is great. I mean, after she had the transplant, the heart, she had no issues with it. She's just got other minor issues. She's got a wound where they had a catheter in that won't heal, and it's leaking lymphatic fluid that they nicked, I guess, or something. And that's finally starting. It's been a long deal with that, but it's finally starting to heal, and it's starting to close up, but other than that, she's doing good. And the reason why things don't go very fast because she's on anti-rejection medicines, which are basically immune depletion medicines. That's the whole purpose. They try to deplete your immune system, so your body, if you have a good immune system, your body's going to try to reject that foreign object. It thinks the heart or a kidney or whatever you got transplanted is a foreign object to your body, and so they have to take. That's why they always have to take a medicine the rest of their life. But she's doing good. Every test has come back. There's no signs of rejection. She would hit me if I didn't say something, but she wanted me on this interview to really stress, and I mean, me too. Those, if you ever thought about being a donor, do it. We're lucky by God's grace. That this person that gave her, her heart, was on that list, and that person's still living in my wife today, and what a legacy to leave behind. If you were to pass away early, and that your heart or your liver, your lung, has kept somebody else alive. That part of you still living through that person. I think it's neat. It's not something I've really thought about because it's not something that's ever happened to us. And I don't know. I just really stress people. If you can get on the donor list.
Yeah. Like you said, it's one of those things you don't think about until it somehow affects your life, someone around you, and that's when it brings it to light. And
while we're on that subject, I want to thank the industry. You guys. So many out there during this time. Man, it was a tough time. When it all went down back in June. And it happened in June, and then on Christmas she had it. That's how long it went. 6.5 months. She was in the hospital. And man, the industry, this whole thing, I've heard it said before, and I've really seen it. It really brought the industry together in a way. It really did. Randy Saying, for instance, I talked to him right after she had the heart attack. And of course, I'm not knowing what's going on, what's going to go down. I don't know how. Every day it was something different. I'm thinking, at first she's going to come home within a week. She's going to maybe she's stuck here for a couple of weeks, and then you started seeing the severity of what really happened to her. And so I didn't know, and we didn't have insurance at first, and that took 2 months of going back and forth with before I got that. But during that time, I was talking to Randy Saying on the phone, and he'd say, you need to start your GoFundMe page. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I got too much pride to go asking people for money. If I had insurance, we wouldn't be in this situation. It's my thinking. And anyway, so he did it. Randy, thank you. I love you, brother. You're watching. And that's when he did it, of course, it's out there, and everybody in the film on the Tint groups see, that there's GoFundMe page. Well, I got a lot, from family, community, and stuff, but I really got a lot of people in the window film industry, which really surprised me how many of them gave. And then Dean Mitchell. Let me back up. So we at I guess it was where were y'all at the 10 Indianapolis. I get a text before at the beginning of the show, when it was first starting, and from Dean Mitchell, and he's like, he showed XFL had a little old, money box, the donation box for Lark, pray for Lark, the hashtag that one of my cousins started, and it was on there, and I'm like, wow, XFL's doing it. I'm going to use XFL, and then Gene and David Kratz, which they're friends of mine, with Hubert. I got a picture. They had one there too. I'm like, wow, didn't even know Lumar had done it, had one, and they're my brand. Didn't even know it. They just didn't say anything. And then I get a text the night of I get 2 or 3 texts. Les Helton for Georgia, and and Chris Brooks in Florida both texted me as I was driving home from the hospital one night. This is when my wife wasn't doing real well, and uh, me and my son were driving back, and they sent this text, and I see, it was a video, and it was video of I think Gene. I could see that Gene was up there. Gene Grass was up there talking, and I heard him saying something about my wife, mentioned my wife's name, John Little and Mark Little, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're making a big. I said, they're making a big deal of it at the Tint-Off. I go, so I just turned it off. I was driving, I couldn't really watch it, and I started crying. I just started crying that the industry did all that for. I got home, and I sat there and watched it, and I just cried and cried, watching it. Took it to the hospitals and showed my wife on the phone. She just cried.
Yeah.
And she's so thankful to everybody and so thankful to the industry. But, I know they raised a lot of money. Then Dean gets the idea of selling that Makita heat gun. And, oh, my goodness. I never would have thought that thing would bring what it brought. And, I knew it'd probably bring more than the thing's worth, but you never thought it'd bring $4,300 or something like that. And then he came down, and Randy Sand come up from South Texas, his son down there from South Texas, some of them around the Metroplex, and even Dave Dillinger from down south, and all of them come up there, and some of them up in our area, and then David and Kratz come from Oklahoma, and they supplied their top dog film, and they just made a day out of it. It raised the whole thing. I want to say the thing raised 20 between, the Tint-Off and then what went on at that day. I think it raised like 2,500 or 2,800, something like that. 25,000, 22 or 23,000 is what it was. Like, I just blown away. I could not believe what it did, and then along with what was given, some of them given. There's so many people given, and I can't name you all. Y'all know. I thank you in the past, but I have people in all these groups. Window Film Revolution, Film Builders Guild that does stuff. Window Film Pros, Window Tenders United. Billy, asking the snow cone question. Billy right off the bat sent me a card, a Uber Eats card, and right there at the beginning, because he said that hospital cafeteria food sucks, so I'm going to send this Uber Eats. So everybody's giving me stuff. People reached out. Most people were kind of hesitant at first. They're trying to let things settle down. But man, I really, really, really want to thank the industry. The industry has been so good to us and during this time. And man, I've had so much uplifting stories, from people, in just the industry alone, And so I want to thank all of y'all for that, and you too, Eric. You part of the group, that was really up there, really rooting for me.
There's nothing more important, And Mike Powell just dropped a comment that I feel like says it really well. He says, "We don't want to thank you. We don't want to thank you. We're all here as a family." And of course, the thank yous to everybody, to the industry is, obviously appreciated. But what he's saying, we're all here as a family, is accurate. We're all here as a family as tinters. We're all here as a family as humans, and we should not lose sight of the value of life and the value of our life, but other people's lives, all the people around us, and all the ways that we can impact everybody in a positive way, because why not? It's the most important thing. So,
absolutely.
So,
there's good people. There really is, I see a lot of it, in these groups, a lot of bickering and a lot of egos and stuff, but in the end, there's a lot of good people in the industry, and they do a lot of good things. They all mean well.
Yeah. Well, John, I thank you so much. This has been such an honor to speak with you, such a great opportunity to get to speak with you. Like we said, this is the first time chatting, and it's a good time we live where technology allows for this. So I sincerely appreciate you taking this time this evening to chat with me, share your experience.
On here, just gonna I never did tell you, but this is the first time I've ever done a live interview. So
how did it go?
I think it's fine.
It was pretty easy, right?
Well, I'll have to read the comments afterwards. I'll see how well it went, I guess.
The comments are all good, but it was pretty easy. Were you nervous going into it in any sort of way, or no? Because you don't look.
Get nerves and stuff like this, but man, I don't get nerves with anything much anymore. Didn't bother me. I think thinking about it sometimes, I can feel nerves a little bit thinking about, I got that thing coming up. I hope I don't get nervous. I'm really I'm honestly, what I just thought, I'd just come and visualize, I'm just talking to you right now. I know everybody's watching, but all I can see is you. It's just like you and I having a conversation, and that's the way you do it.
Yep, that's it. Well, thank you again, John. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll be back Tuesday. Everybody have a great weekend. Thanks again.
Bye.